If you're staring down a mountain of debt and wondering how you'll ever get out, you're not alone. I'm 1 year into a 6-figure debt payoff journey, and at this time last year I had $127,000 in student loan debt, and today I have $88,000 with a payment pending to bring me over the $40,000 paid off mark. In this video, I'll be breaking down the 4 steps that I've used to tackle this mountain of debt over the last 12 months. No gimmicks, no magic, just strategy and consistency. If we're meeting for the first time, I'm Sandra. I'm a 26-year-old occupational therapist living in Denver, Colorado. I make $76,000 per year, and I am sharing my journey to pay off my 6-figure student loan debt and build wealth. I share monthly money updates, debt updates, as well as much advice as I can give, but as always, you're responsible for doing your own research. Overall, I just want to share what it's like for a real, regular person to tackle a mountain of debt. Got it? Let's get into it. The first step I took was getting brutally honest with my numbers. I sat down and added up every single debt I had. For me, this was just student loans, but for someone else, it might be student loans, credit card loans, car loans, you name it. At the start of this, my total was $127,000. Then I looked at how much money I was bringing in every single month. My full-time income, side hustles, and then I keep track of anything gifted, etc., things like that. From there, I outlined my necessary expenses. This includes rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, as well as my minimum debt payment. Once I had the full picture of income minus expenses, I could see how much I had left to work with. Now, something that's a reality for me is that I'm sharing expenses with someone. And if you are living with someone and sharing expenses, I'm going to assume that it's a serious relationship and you both want to support each other in your futures. If not, maybe reconsider. If you haven't talked finances, now is the time. You both need to understand where you're at financially. My partner and I laid out our income and expenses, and we set shared financial goals knowing that we were planning to build a life together. For now, our money is separate, but those goals are shared. By doing this, we were able to see that he was able to afford a greater share of our living expenses comfortably and still reach a lot of his goals. This allowed me to free up even more money to put towards my student loan payments without overburdening him. And if you're not in this situation, that is completely fine. You can still put extra money towards your financial goals. Knowing your numbers is just the foundation. You can't make a plan if you don't know where you stand. The next thing I did was build a budget that worked for me. I knew I wanted to get out of debt fast, but I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that if it felt entirely like a punishment. For me, this meant 2 things. First, I needed to give myself a little bit of fun money to spend on whatever I wanted every single month. This is $200, and it allows me to eat out with friends or grab a coffee or buy an article of clothing or something if I need it. It also meant understanding what paying towards my debt meant and how much faster I would be able to get out of debt. I played with different numbers until I found the sweet spot of money to put towards debt versus other goals versus me. This means that I'm paying off my debt aggressively, but I'm also still investing, saving, and spending on my life. I think it's a good idea to have a savings egg that's big enough to cover a few months of expenses in case something does happen to your job. I have 5 months of necessary expenses in my savings account, which is $10,000. My debt is also what I would call medium interest. It's between 5 and 7%, but it's also going to take me a few years to pay off. I was able to run the numbers on both debt payoff and investing to see what would make sense for me, and I wanted to understand how it would impact my financial future. Because my debt is less than 7%, it does make sense for me to still invest during this process because I can out-earn my debt and I'm young and my money has a lot of time to grow. If you're in a different situation, this might not make so much sense. For example, if you have $5,000 of credit card debt where the interest is double digits and you'd be able to pay that off in maybe 3 months without investing and 8 months with investing, it probably makes sense to just pay off the debt and then invest afterwards. Run the numbers on how much increasing or decreasing your investments alongside your debt payoff journey impacts your financial future. This is also true for saving. Like I said, I think it's a good idea to save alongside your debt payoff, but that doesn't mean you have to stop your debt payoff entirely in order to save. It's important to just know your numbers and understand how putting money in certain places will impact your financial future. If you aren't sure by what I mean by running the numbers, I literally mean pulling up a debt and investment calculator, taking the amount that you have left over that you're planning to put towards your goals and splitting it up between those things and seeing how it impacts your future. For example, if you have $500 left over at the end of the month to put towards financial goals and you have debt and a goal of investing, start by seeing what would happen if you put an extra $250 to your debt and $250 to investments. How much faster would your debt be paid off? How much interest would you save on your debt in that time? And how much would that $250 a month invested grow by retirement? From here, you can increase and decrease the numbers and see how it impacts your financial future and make a decision that you're comfortable with. It very well might mean putting the whole $500 to your debt, but we just want to make sure you have informed consent. Understanding your numbers is all about finding balance so that you can stick to this goal and stay consistent over the long run. Here's the step that changed everything for me. It's tracking my finances. Every single month, I track my income, my spending, my debt payments, and my savings and investment contribution. I sit down to track my income every other Friday when I get paid and my expenses every single Monday. It takes me about 2 to 3 minutes. This isn't about being perfect, it's about staying aware. When you track your money, the reality of it is you stay connected to your goals. To do this, I built a budget spreadsheet in Excel that allows me to track every single month, and this spreadsheet is actually available to you guys down below. What I like about the budget spreadsheet spreadsheet that I built is that not only does it make it easy to track your income and expenses, but you can also assign money that you haven't necessarily spent yet, but you know what job you want it to have. This serves two purposes. First of all, it allows you to plan for your paychecks before you actually need to spend the money. For example, if you know you have a rent payment due on the 1st, you can just assign your money to rent. That way you know you have your rent covered without actually having to submit that payment. And once the money is given that job, it stays in its own little workplace. So if you assign money for personal spending, but you don't spend all your money for personal spending, it just rolls over to the next month. This allows you to account for variabilities in your spending. You don't need a fancy budget template to track your expenses. You can literally do it with pen and paper. Tracking allows you to spend in alignment with your values, and it allows you to stay on track with your goals. This step is what kept me from slipping back into old habits and helped me stay consistent month after month. And finally, I stuck with my plan. Even when it's hard, even when unexpected expenses came up, I had car repairs that were thousands of dollars, which definitely hurt a little bit, but I also gave myself permission to adjust when necessary. Life happens. What matters is that you don't quit. If you watch any of my monthly reset videos, you know that I was constantly adjusting and finicking with my plan and changing a few things. I wasn't making any big changes, but I was seeing how things were working in one month and making the adjustments for the next month. There were months that I paid more, months that I only hit my targets and not a dime over, but I never lost sight of the goal, and because of that, I way exceeded my original goal of paying off $24,000 in my first year. So there you have it. Those are the 4 steps that allowed me to pay off $40,000 in 12 months. Once again, it is know your numbers, build a realistic and balanced budget, track everything, and stick to the plan and adjust when needed. Now, your numbers, of course, are probably going to look different from mine, but I really firmly believe that if you can't handle your money when you're making $1,000 a month, you're not going to be able to handle it when you have $15,000 a month. Start now and adjust accordingly as your income grows. Even an extra $50 towards your goals will help immensely. Again, just run the numbers. If I can do it, I promise that you can. So if you enjoyed this video and you feel like it's helpful, drop a like. It really helps me out. And if you want to follow along on my journey while I pay off the rest of this $88,000 of debt, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.